Hello everyone and welcome to my home. My name is Jessica Tiarina and this is Jessica's Kitchen, tips, tricks, and hacks. Now I know that you guys have been kind of tagging along this last week on all the marinades that we're doing. This is going to be episode 4, which means we are on our 7th and 8th different type of marinade for all things grilling, all things baking, all things sauteing, and it doesn't have to just be meat. You guys can marinate vegetables and non-meat products, tofu, anything you wish to your heart's desire. And these marinades can be turned into a sauce as well, as long as the meat has not been sitting in it. You do not want to risk the chance of getting sick by having some raw meat in your sauce. You can use the sauce in the meat if you want to be extra cautious and boil that down for at least 15 minutes. I'm a little bit more cautious and I tend to throw the stuff that my meat's been marinating in the trash and just save some before I put meat in there for using as a topping later, or a dressing or a salsa of some sort. So again, I just want to welcome you guys. Again, my name is Jessica Tiarina. This is Jessica's Kitchen, tips, tricks, and hacks. We are on episode 4 of marinades. This is our segment 4 of marinades, episode, I believe, 9 of Jessica's tips, tricks, and hacks. So for those of you that have been following me, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your support. It is what's getting me through these days. I know we all have our own things that we're doing. But this is what gets me excited and out of bed and showered in the morning. So thank you very much for your time. This is again segment 4 of marinades. And today we're going to be doing, as promised, an al pastor marinade, which is a Mexican marinade, and a coffee marinade. I know, it's not just for drinking. Who knew? It is phenomenal. Now, I have played around with this coffee one for quite some time, adding different things, adding a soy, taking out soy, adding more garlic, adding a molasses, cold brew coffee versus my own brewed espresso or regular coffee. I mean, again, the world is our oyster. Everyone's got their own tastes and their own flavor profiles they like. This is my recipe. Do with it what you want. We're going to start with the al pastor marinade today. And again, let's talk about that marinade magic we got going on, and that is the formula of 1 part acid to about 3 parts oil, plus your seasonings and your flavorings to make everything delicious. It's a kind of a no-fail marinade sequence at that point, and your acids, your enzymes, your acids are things like vinegars and wines, juices, alcohol. Your enzymes are yogurts, like a Greek yogurt we used for the Greek marinade, any kind of milk proteins. Today we're going to use a pineapple juice. You can use things like honey. We used maple syrup the other day from Iron Shoe Farms. That was pretty cool. We used a cherry balsamic vinaigrette and a garlic oil from Grand Fete in Wisconsin. That was really awesome. We're going to add some fat, like an olive oil or mayonnaise, buttermilk, anything like that. And then seasonings, whatever kind you want to use. We can use things like fresh or dried herbs, spices, garlic, onions, ginger, zest of fruits and citrus. Again, the maple syrup, molasses, whatever you got. So I've given you guys 6 recipes already for marinades. Here's 2 more coming at you. An al pastor Mexican marinade, so delicious. And I'm not a huge fan of pineapple, but it is necessary for this particular restaurant. Now, for those of you who don't know what al pastor is, think of it like the best way to envision is thin slices of meat piled on top of each other in this sauce with pineapple. And it's put on what we call in Mexican a trompo, which is like a spinning top. Similar for a visual to you would be a spit, like a gyro. That is what a trompo is, and that is what we put our thin slices of meat on, and then it sits and it marinates, and those juices after that pineapple sits on top kind of just fall down through the whole time that it's cooking and roasting and marinating all at the same time over a really hot flame. So again, it's on a spit like a gyro called a trompo. A good pastor, in my opinion, is going to be the marinade itself. those chilies, those spices, those herbs, getting that down is really significant. Having your pineapple grilled is a pretty good indication you're going to get a good al pastor. And 3, using the juice of the pineapple. Now, we don't have to use fresh pineapple. We can use, hi Nicole, good, I'm glad. She said my mouth is watering. So you don't have to use a fresh pineapple. It is highly encouraged, but again, let's use what we've got. We've got to have a can of pineapple somewhere in the house, right? I know my boys love pineapple and Canadian bacon pizza. That is one of the only reasons why I have pineapple on hand, unless I'm teaching a class on al pastor. I happen to have a can of pineapple in my pantry, so that was perfect for this recipe. I just used your traditional, I think it's just a Dole pineapple slices. In its own juices, not in no added sugar is my preference as well. Otherwise, just buy, a can of pineapple juice or a jug of pineapple juice, whatever you want. It is pretty important to have the juice of that pineapple in this recipe to enhance that flavor. Again, that is one of those acids that you're adding, but it's also a flavoring or seasoning you're adding too. So for this recipe, we are going to start by, and again, you can find these recipes on my website, jessicatiarena.com. After this, just look up the word al pastor or just punch in the word marinade and you'll get all the past recipes I have for marinades. This one, again, marinades that I'm telling you guys for these recipes I'm doing are for about 1 pound of meat or meat substitute or vegetables in general. So this is going to have a half of a fresh pineapple or 1/2 of a can of sliced pineapple, plus your juice reserved if you are using that can. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of white vinegar. One of the very few things, I've had 2 recipes now that call for a white vinegar. I've said before that we don't typically try to use the white distilled vinegar, the stuff we use in our laundry sometimes, for cooking food. But I find in a lot of Mexican cooking and a lot of those acidic sauces, you need that potency of that white acid vinegar. And we're not using a ton, a 1/2 cup, not a huge amount. A cup of oil, again, to add that fat into there. And now my recipe is going to have 2 different ways of making it. It's going to have a traditional recipe for this marinade of using a chili paste, fresh from dried chilies being rehydrated with garlic and onion and herbs and spices. That will be on there. Hi, Rachel, welcome. Otherwise, the one I'm showing you today is the one that probably most people are going to have access to with the herbs and the spices and not having to take that extra step. But I always make a paste and I keep it in my freezer like I do with my chipotle peppers and adobo sauce. But today I wanted to show you the little bit longer version, but more simplified based on the things you guys are going to have in your pantry. I don't want you running out to grab dried chilies, that kind of stuff. So this recipe is going to call for a chipotle pepper and adobo sauce, ground guajillo chili peppers, ground ancho pepper, 4 cloves of garlic, 1/2 of an onion peeled, a 1/4 cup of pineapple juice, a tablespoon of oregano, a tablespoon of paprika, a tablespoon of smoked paprika, and a tablespoon of salt, optional. I always put optional for the salt in my marinades because a lot of that vinegar is going to act, that acid's going to act as the penetrant, but that salt will bring a little bit of flavor in if you're not using a ton of fresh herbs. We are using dried herb today of the oregano. Mexican oregano is a little sweeter and has a little more high potency to it. But if we had fresh, we can use any kind of fresh oregano. Again, the ratio as far as a formula goes for fresh to dried is 1 tablespoon of fresh equals 1 teaspoon of dried, because dried is much more important than fresh, which just sounds kind of strange, but it is. All right, so we're going to use the food processor for this one in particular just because there's a lot of elements to it, and I want to make sure it gets nice and ground into more of a paste than it is more of a liquid version today. That's kind of the key to the al pastor when you're putting it on that trompo, and it just kind of sits there in this thick paste with that juice just kind of melting down as that flame comes up and ignites those juices and the meat and the sauce. Phenomenal. So the first things first is we're going to go ahead and add all the ingredients to the food processor. What that means is 1 chipotle pepper and adobo sauce. And I've told you guys before, chipotle pepper is just a smoked jalapeno. Adobo sauce is just Mexican ketchup. Lots of peppers and herbs and salts and garlic salt and onion salt all mixed together for a wonderful flavor. We're going to then add 2 teaspoons of ground guajillo. So guajillo pepper is another one of those Mexican peppers that we use quite a bit. I'm just gonna eyeball it here. And it has a very strong, earthy flavor profile. It's a little spicy, not that much. I'm gonna use arbol chili today instead of the ancho pepper. Ancho is extremely spicy. And I don't really actually have any right now, so I'm gonna substitute with a little bit of arbol chili. Same amount. It's just gonna give it some good flavor, maybe not the spice that I'm looking for, but that chipotle pepper and adobo sauce is also gonna add a little bit of spice in there too. So then I'm gonna add 4 cloves of garlic. Just peeled, I don't need to dice them or anything because they're going straight into the food processor today. I'm gonna just even leave the root end on there. I'm just gonna toss it in there. I've got one real big one here, but that's okay. And I always keep a little bit of I always keep a little trash bucket for me underneath my cooking area or near me or around me. And it's not necessarily for trash, it's all for my compost or the stuff that I'm going to be putting in a stock or a broth later. I save all my scraps, my onion scraps, my garlic scraps, all that fun stuff. Put it in a plastic bag in the freezer. When that bag gets full, I just make a quick broth or stock. Saves me a bunch of money and I'm using less waste, more sustainability in the kitchen. I'm all for it. So we've got 4 fat cloves of garlic in there. It's Mexican cooking. Garlic. That's all I gotta say. Then we're gonna go ahead and put a half an onion. I've already peeled that. I'm just gonna chop that into about 6 smaller pieces just because I'm using my small mini prep here today, my little food processor. Got that going in there. So now we've got chipotle pepper and adobo sauce, some guajillo pepper, instead of ancho, I used arbol chili peppers ground. And then I used 4 cloves of garlic, half of an onion, a 1/4 cup of pineapple juice. Okay, so I've got pineapple juice from my canned pineapple. Fresh pineapple juice is obviously gonna give you a more significant kick as far as those enzymes in there go and that acid. Totally fine to use the stuff from the can, better than not having any at all. And then we're going to add in 1 tablespoon of oregano. I happen to have Mexican oregano, which is my favorite. It looks kind of like chamomile when you look at it. It's bigger leaves. Let me see if I can put this up there for you guys to see how it's almost like it was come right out of someone's garden. As, I mean, technically they are originally, but so you'll see kind of how large those clumps are. It looks a little bit like chamomile. So we've got like a leaf in there, everything. So it's not as ground and leafy, flaky like American oregano. All right, so add a little bit of oregano in there. A tablespoon of paprika and a tablespoon of, you know it, smoked paprika. I love myself smoked paprika. I use it in a lot of things. So teaspoon of paprika, smoked paprika. Again, I've given you guys some tips, tricks, and hacks on if you don't have smoked paprika. Go ahead and use extra paprika and a half a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce or smoke seasoning to give it that smoky flavor. Of course, it's not going to be the same thing, but you know what? Good enough for now. We're using what we got. And then a tablespoon of salt. I'm going to hold off on the salt for now. I'm going to add the pineapple, the white vinegar, and the oil to this now. So right now I'm going to add in a half a can of that pineapple. Now I could have grilled these. I did not. It's best if you do, totally fine if you don't. I have a grill pan. I could have heated it up on the stove, got it real nice and hot, thrown those puppies on there with a little bit of oil, gotten them a little charred. That's what I'm gonna wanna do in the final stages of this. I have left the other half can diced and ready to go. I'm gonna drain the rest of that juice, put it on a hot skillet later on, and saute that pineapple until it gets nice and charred, and then I'm gonna mix it in with my meat when it's ready to be cooked. So the pineapple's in there now, and then we're gonna add the half a cup of white vinegar and a cup of oil. So half a cup of the white vinegar. I think I went a little crazy on the vinegar there. Just a half a cup. And oil. I'm gonna start with a half a cup of oil. I know it's the 3-to-1 ratio, but I'm gonna see how that works so far. It's one of those recipes that, again, you really like to have that acid kind of pop out of there. We're just gonna do that. So the more we blend this up, the more we pulse this, the thicker it gets. Right now it's a little chunky. I'd like to pulse that just a little bit more so it turns into more of a paste, which is why I stopped at half a cup of oil first. I'm gonna pulse it a little bit more, get it a little bit thicker, and then maybe add a little bit more of that fat in there. To see if it'll emulsify just a little bit more. Again, when it comes to marinades, you are typically emulsifying most of the stuff when you're adding a fat and an acid together and combining it at a really fast pace. I want to see if I can get you guys a little bit of a spoonful of this so you can see what it looks like and see what I'm talking about. It is not a liquid form like the rest. All right. So this is what it looks like. It's more of a paste than it is a liquid marinade, and that's exactly what you want. Now the color on this is a little bit more orange. If you do the traditional method of rehydrating chili peppers, those chili peppers are a deep burgundy, blood red, real dark. If you're going to use those, rehydrate them, mix them with the onion and the garlic and the herbs and the spices, you will get a much darker color in your paste. You can also use achiote paste, which some recipes, traditional Mexican recipes call for, depending on where in Mexico you're from. Achiote paste is used quite often, and that is just the seeds of the annatto plant. Annatto is what a lot of us in America specifically use for coloring products. So red hair dye has annatto in it. Red food number 5 is a synthetic red, but you could also use annatto. Annatto is also used to color our cheese. So our yellow blocks and orange blocks of cheese typically have annatto in them, which is what it gives it that flavor, and it's a natural occurring ingredient. It's not synthetic. So a lot of Mexican chefs use annatto powder, annatto paste, annatto broth of some sort to color, but it also brings in a flavor as well. So that was the quick and simple version of the al pastor. So I know, Nicole, al pastor is something of your favorite as well. There is a much longer, drawn out method of an al pastor that I grew up making on my website, which I actually may have already given that to you at some point, but either way, that is much more of a real paste, and that's meant for you to slice your meat, let it marinate and sit overnight, and then put it over the hottest grill fire you possibly can. Char those bits, get that flavor going. Now, like I said earlier and in past sessions of this, for the marinades, if you want some for a sauce or to top your product after it's done being cooked, make sure you pull a little bit of that out before you marinate any raw meat in there. You do not want to use that marinade after you have marinated meat in there without cooking it first. Now, I typically play safe and I throw that in the trash, but there's nothing wrong, and the Department of Health and the Department of Ag say it's okay as long as you cook it for 15 minutes on a rapid boil to get rid of anything in there. I just would rather play it safe and pull about a half a cup of that out before I do anything with it. That way I've got it sitting on the side and I don't feel so guilty throwing out that marinade. And then I know I'm safe. You just never know who you're going to be serving it to. Kids, elderly, adults, that kind of thing. So, hi Kayla, welcome. So this is episode 4, or segment 4 of the marinades. And we just did the al pastor, the Mexican al pastor marinade. Al pastor just means thin slices of meat piled on top of one another and then put on a trompo. Hi, Patty. A trompo is a spinning top like a spit, similar to how you've seen gyros be made. On that metal spit, A lot of times for the al pastor, it'll be on that spit, thin layers of meat of any kind. Pineapple put right on the top of that spit, hot flames coming up from the bottom, and that just spins and spins and spins with that paste of this marinade that we've made of the al pastor, and the juices of that pineapple just kind of trickle down that meat for hours on end. It is phenomenal. One of my favorite. Again, for a good pastor, the marinade is key. Your grilled pineapple, if available or if you have the time for it, is really going to change it. Char some pineapple before you serve it. It'll change your world. And pineapple juice is a key ingredient as well. So that is the marinade for the al pastor. Next, we're going to move on to, as promised, a coffee marinade. Okay, so yeah, I had way too many cups of coffee this morning, and my stomach's paying the price right now, but that's okay. I also made extra just for this specific recipe, and it is fantastic on a nice flank steak, on a pork tenderloin. Chicken is fine too. Anything you want to use. I haven't really loved it on grilled vegetables, but it's a marinade, really. I mean, if you're going to spruce up your dinner or your lunch, try it anyways. So this coffee marinade, again, for 1 pound of meat substitute or vegetable, that's the recipe I'm giving you and the one that'll be on my website, jessicatiarena.com. But you can make it your own. Hi, Teresa. Welcome. We're talking about the coffee marinade. We just went through the al pastor. So the coffee marinade has 1 cup of prepared coffee. You can use instant coffee. You can use coffee you made this morning. You can use espresso, whatever you want to use. You can use cold brew. Just make sure you dilute it to the appropriate amount. Unless you really want a kick from your food, then by all means, just use straight concentrate. It does have soy, molasses, garlic, onion, balsamic vinegar, Dijon mustard, and thyme, and a little black pepper. So this one I'm actually going to do in a jar. Yes, I just did the other one in a food processor. Maybe I'm going to do it in a jar. Yep. Okay. So I did do the al pastor in my food processor, my mini prep today. Hi, Kate. Welcome. Because I did have so many pieces in there. I had chunks of garlic, chunks of onion, chunks of pineapple, and I really wanted to get that pineapple pulverized in there and that garlic really finely minced. So I pulverized it right in my food processor, made it into a paste, and that's the way that I like it. For this one, for the coffee, we're just going to use a mason jar, but you can certainly put it in a food processor and whip that buddy around. Totally up to you. You're going to get a little bit more added flavor, and most likely because it's all minced pretty well, you won't have to, sorry guys, you won't have to add so much salt or any salt at all, because you guys know me, I prefer not to add salt if I don't have to, because there is enough stuff in there with the acid going on, but it does enhance things like fresh herbs and flavored vinegars, flavored balsamics, that kind of thing. So coffee marinade, we're going to start with 1 cup of prepared coffee. Bam, done. Okay. Woo, that is like dark on the bottom. I'm going to just mix that up a little bit. I want that thick, rich piece of coffee that I'm not getting right now. All right, so about 1 cup of coffee. Great. And we're going to move on to a 1/4 cup of soy. You know me, I'm just going to eyeball it. I recommend you measure it out if it's your first time doing it. This is going to add the salt you need. So this recipe definitely does not call for salt. The soy, plenty of sodium in there for you and all your neighbors. A 1/4 cup of molasses. And I always think of molasses as a really dark, deep, burnt maple syrup, brown sugar flavor. So you could add about 1/8 cup of brown sugar. But that burnt flavor, you're really not going to get anywhere else but through a molasses. That blackstrap molasses is just real dark and full of caramel flavors. Just nothing you're going to get anywhere else. So then we're going to add in a 1/4 of an onion peeled and diced. I've got that here. And I say diced this time just because the smaller you have these guys, the more flavor it's going to bring. And I don't mind if I'm grilling this and onion chunks are in my food. Some people don't love big chunks of onion. So it's just up to your audience and kind of what they're looking for. My boys don't love raw onion specifically, particularly, but I put enough in most of our food that I can hide it. So if you have kids, this is a good tip and trick and hack. If you have kids or family members that don't like onion, like the texture of it, but don't mind the flavor of it, use, you know me, one of my favorite tools, a microplane. Okay, use a microplane and just zest it, basically. You're mincing it into almost a paste, essentially. And that's how I hide the flavor of onion sometimes in some of my cooking. If I know that I know someone who doesn't particularly like onions. And of course, they know there's onion in there. They don't have to chew on it. I don't know why it's a texture thing for some people. Who knows? Woo, that's a strong one. Oh, my right eye is watering uncontrollably. Okay, so now we've got, for the coffee marinade, we've got 1 cup of coffee prepared and cooled, a 1/4 cup of soy, a 1/4 cup of molasses, a 1/4 of an onion, peeled and diced, a 1/3 cup of balsamic vinegar. Now today I have called the Olive Branch Oil and Spice Company of Minnesota, and this is Premier Dark Balsamic Vinegar. Woo, yeah, it is balsamic dark. I'm gonna kind of see if you guys can see how thick this is. It's beautiful. So we're just gonna put in a little bit of that for you guys. Oh yeah, very thick, like syrup. So there's gonna be a lot of that in there, about a 1/3 cup, which is quite a bit. It's almost, well, it's about half this bottle, which is totally fine. It's what it's there for. I haven't used it in a while, so good. Get rid of it somehow. All right, 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. All right, I'm gonna grab a spatula for that. 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Beautiful. I just use the Dijon mustard with white wine from Trader Joe's. It's one of my favorite. It's easy. It's like a $2 maybe, $2.50. So crazy. All right, so then after the Dijon mustard, we're gonna add 3 cloves of garlic minced, 1 teaspoon of dried thyme. So let's add the dried thyme in there. And two garlic cloves minced. You guys notice one thing that I haven't used in these 2 marinades yet that I've used in every other one I've done this week? The juice of a citrus. No lemon, no lime, no orange. I know, I half expected there to be orange, of course, in the al pastor marinade, but instead it was pineapple, and that's okay. We don't get to use my trusty, fun little lemon juicer today. We're just gonna mince this up pretty quick here. All right, good enough. Pop that in. Ooh, those are strong cloves today. Ooh, delicious. They're gonna be spicy. And then a little bit of black pepper. Fresh cracked black pepper if you have it. If you don't, no big deal. Fresher is always better if you can help it, but not huge. Not huge for these days and these times. Use what you got. You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. All right. Whew, this is just dark. It's almost black in color. I'm gonna go ahead and throw everything in the mason jar, put that top on real tight, shake that puppy up. Now again, optional, I was gonna say optional salt, but no, we have plenty of soy in here. So, woo. So the molasses in there, I have a tasting spoon. The molasses in here and the soy mixed together is so potent. ooh, it's got like a burnt, sweet caramel, onion, garlic, phenomenal. Like I said, it's a wonderful one for a pork tenderloin, a flank steak, just steak in general if you want. Have some just sitting in your fridge for leftover steak and just pour it over the top on some potatoes. Wonderful. So today, that's it. That kind of went quick today. That was the al pastor marinade, the Mexican marinade. Al pastor, again, thin slices of meat piled on top of one another, put on a spit called a trompo, which is a spinning top, similar to how we make gyro. A good pastor has a great marinade with chilies and spices and herbs. Grilled pineapple if you got it, otherwise fresh pineapple, otherwise canned pineapple. Pineapple juice is essential. If you don't have it, again, no big deal. Use orange juice, use fresh squeezed lemon, lime, whatever you got for that additional acid. Fresh herbs to dried herbs. It's 1 teaspoon of fresh herbs or 1 tablespoon of fresh herbs to 1 teaspoon of dried herbs. That's the ratio. Dried is much more potent than fresh. Kate, you had a question. Do you taste the flavor of the coffee while you're eating it or at the eating time? Yeah, a little bit. Yep, it depends on how strong you make that coffee initially. If I used a 1/4 cup of espresso powder to a cup of water, you are definitely going to taste the coffee. And if you just use your leftover coffee from your morning brew, probably not as much as you would, but that molasses is what brings out that flavor. That molasses, that soy, so that salt and the molasses bring out the flavor of that coffee. Great question. Thank you for asking that. So today that was the al pastor and the coffee marinade. Again, they can be used on any type of meat, any vegetable, any non-meat, any protein, whatever you're looking to do. You can reduce this coffee marinade if you want as well and add additional sugar to it and make like a coffee syrup out of it too and use it to glaze things, make it a glaze. It's a wonderful way to use that as well. The marinade magic, guys, the formula, 1 part acid to 3 parts oil plus your seasonings of any kind, no fail marinade. Acids can be vinegars, liquors, beers, wines, buttermilk. Your enzymes are going to be Greek yogurts and milk and honey. Your fats are going to be oils and mayonnaise and almond oil if you have it. Seasonings, anything from fresh to dried herbs, garlic, spices, maple syrup, red pepper flakes. The world is your oyster. As always, you guys, thank you for joining me today. Today is Friday and it's sunny. I cannot wait to go outside and paint some patio furniture. Hope you guys have something fun to do today. Hope you're going to use these marinades. If you've used any of the other ones previously, please let me know. I want to hear what you guys have to do, what you guys have been doing, what you've been using it on, how you've been cooking it. It's not just for grilling either. Throw it in your oven. I threw some chicken thighs in the oven with that Southeast Asian marinade. Phenomenal. I made an Asian bowl with rice and green onion and radish the other day. So good. Rachel, is there another way you can cook the al pastor? Oh yeah, great question. You don't have to cook it on a spit. You can just use thin slices of meat and fry it on a hot skillet. If you've got a cast iron, that works the best. Grilling it, by far the best substitute if you don't have the trompo and a spit of any kind. Let that flame come up. Let that flame hit that meat with that al pastor sauce. It is phenomenal. You can do it any way you want, but those are the best, most traditional ways of getting that flame around there, getting it real nice and hot, getting some hard char on there. It's phenomenal. Okay, thank you so much. Again, have a wonderful weekend, you guys. I'll be back in a day or two with some more marinades or maybe something else. Who knows? Could be time to move on. If you guys haven't heard, I am going to be teaching a kids class on Wednesday as part of the Minnetonka School District and their community education. That is on my Facebook page. Have the kids sign up. It's only $10. It's an hour long and it's no cook, no bake. So 3 simple snacks for kids. Super fun. I know they're getting antsy. I know they want things to do. We're learning how to cook together in the kitchen. This would be a fun opportunity for them to join me in the kitchen. 1 hour. We send you the ingredients, the equipment list. You guys have everything prepped and ready. $10. Can't beat it. Fun, cheap entertainment in your own home. I want you guys to be safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, please. Always remember to. And then come back and visit me sometime. Check my website out, jessicatiarena.com, for more recipes. Enter in the word marinade, and all the marinades I've done this last week will pop up for you in a nice, handy little way. If you have questions, let me know. I'd love it if you signed up for my blog. If you haven't already, you can do that as well on my website. Have a wonderful afternoon, great weekend. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.